Greetings and welcome. Welcome to Shema TV. My name is Mikael McDaniel and I'm your host. Shema is an ancient word of Hebrew origin with many definitions and detailed connotations. Initially it means to hear, but not only to hear, but to listen. And not only to listen, but to listen intently and intelligently. For truth is about to be expounded. And once this truth is gleaned by the listener, he or she is to proclaim the same truth to others. This program seeks this lofty goal, to inform a people, to uncover those things that are buried, to ready a people for the second coming of the Messiah. In previous airings, I have talked about the building of a structure, the instructions of a booklet that you would find when you go to build furniture or electronics or any other thing like that. And I also gave you the Hebrew word for build, which is bana or bana. But bana also means children. Children are builders also. But they can't even build without instructions. In the book of Hosea, 4th chapter and 5th verse, is a commonly read scripture known by every congregation on earth. It reads, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Since you have rejected knowledge, I will reject you, and you will no longer be a priest to me. Seeing that you have forgotten the instructions of the Almighty, I will also forget your children." Now let me repeat this verse in your hearing and in your understanding. My people, the people that I've created, are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. It goes on to tell you why they are destroyed. Because you rejected knowledge. So the giver of the knowledge is going to reject you. You're not listening anyway, in other words. You'll no longer be a priest to me. You'll no longer be able to speak for me. Because you rejected the knowledge, the true knowledge. Seeing that you have forgotten the instructions, which is the knowledge. Seeing that you have forgotten the instructions of the Almighty, I will also forget your children. I will also forget your children. Now, to the modern day parent, this is a frightening prospect that God will forget their children. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Since you rejected knowledge, I'll reject you. You will no longer be a priest for me, to me. Now, priest has a literal meaning. It means a minister or pastor or reverend or the ruler of one's house, i.e. parents. Parents. You'll no longer be able to speak for me because you have nothing to tell anybody. You don't have the true knowledge to give because you rejected it. You'll no longer be a priest to me. Seeing that you have forgotten the instructions, which is a Hebrew word meaning Torah, or the Bible as it is known, I'll also forget your children because you have nothing to tell them. You have no viable instruction to give them. Abraham, known to the world as Abraham, was called by God. Proper title, Elohim. Elohim, which means all-existent one. This is the proper title. People use God, but there's a reason for that. That's another program. But he chose Abraham. In the book of Bereshit, or known to the world as Genesis, in the 18th chapter and 22nd verse, it reads, "I know him." This is the Almighty talking about Abraham. "I know him to the end that he will teach his children and his household after him." Household after him. After him means that Abraham has passed on. This means that the knowledge will be proliferated, will be handed down. He knows that about Abraham. That's why he chose him. And Abraham became the father of nations. That's the way that all nations will be blessed by him. The same knowledge that Abraham had. Now, it talks about Abraham observing the statutes and judgments even before they were committed to writing. Even before they were committed to writing, it was in Abraham's heart. See, because the Almighty knows our heart. He called Abraham. Abraham left everything. See, he doesn't want robots. He doesn't call us to be calling us. He knew this about Abraham. See, it requires an effort on our part. He doesn't want parrots. He doesn't want people to just repeat what he says. We need to know what he says. This is where the knowledge comes from. In the book of Devarim, or Deuteronomy, as it's known to the world, in the 6th chapter and 7th verse, it says, we ought to diligently teach these precepts and decrees and statutes to our children. We're supposed to diligently teach them this, that they may proliferate, that their households may proliferate. But in the book of Romans, Rav Shaul, or known to the world as the Apostle Paul, he says in the 10th chapter of Romans, 2nd and 3rd verse, he said, I bear record of them, that they do have zeal, they are excited, they are pumped up, but not according to knowledge. Not according to knowledge. The verse goes on to read, because they have rejected the righteousness of Elohim. Now, that term would be God to the world, but the proper title is Elohim. They have rejected his righteousness. They rejected the statutes, and thereby rejected the righteousness of God, or Elohim, and gone around establishing their own righteousness. Their own righteousness, which would be known as damnable heresies. They have a zeal for Elohim, for God, but not according to knowledge. In the book of 1 John, 5th chapter and 2nd verse, it gives you further knowledge of what is required and what this actual knowledge is. It goes on to read 1 John 5 and 2. By this we know that we know him, that we keep his commandments. He or she who says, I know him, and keepeth not his commands, is a liar. Is a liar, and the truth is not in him or her. By this we know, in the same book, by this we know that we love him, and his love is perfected in us, because we keep his commands. Keeping his commands is equated with loving him. That's why the Messiah said, if you love me, keep my commands. And he goes on to say, why call me master, master, or Lord, Lord, what Lord, Lord means. Master, master, why call me that? And do not the things that I say. And do not the things that I say. This is going to be a part. This is going to be accounted at the judgment, when the multitudes will come to him and say, did we not do many wondrous things in your name? Did we not cast out devils in your name? And he's going to say, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Or in some translations says, you workers of lawlessness. Now they're calling the Torah the law because the Greek translators had no equivalent for that. The word is nomos in the original Greek. You without the law, or you lawless people. It means you who don't have the Torah, the instructions, the knowledge. Depart from me. You did it the way you wanted to do it. You established your own righteousness. You rejected my righteousness. You rejected the knowledge. Therefore, I reject you. I hope you'll tune in to Shema TV and be enlightened as we both go through the scriptures to find out the original intent of the Almighty, of Yahweh, through his son, Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus. In our relationship. Until next time, this is Mikhael McDaniel saying, Shema, hear and listen. Shalom.